July 1917, the Western Front. Amid the ceaseless thunder of artillery, a new era of warfare unfolds. Men, knee-deep in the sludge of their trenches, are not only battling the enemy across no man's land, but also an onslaught of technological terrors never seen before on the battlefield. In this episode, we delve deep into the cataclysmic changes that reshaped warfare during the First World War. From the rattling gunfire of machine guns to the lumbering behemoths known as tanks that crushed the earth beneath them. From the silent but deadly clouds of poisonous gas to the first roaring engines of aircraft that took the battle to the skies. Technology raced to the forefront of war. As millions marched to the drums of war, little did they know that the world of combat was evolving faster than any soldier could have imagined. Over the next 10 minutes, we will explore the lethal innovations that not only defined World War I, but also set the stage for modern warfare. Join us as we uncover how these weapons changed the battlefield and, indeed, the very nature of war. Before the First World War, the machine gun was a relatively new invention, sparingly used due to its size and the difficulty of operation. The Gatling gun, invented by Richard Jordan Gatling in 1862 and used during the American Civil War, was among the first of these rapid-fire weapons, but it was cumbersome and required multiple men to operate. But the game changer came with Hiram Maxim's invention in 1884. The Maxim gun, the first fully automatic weapon, could unleash more than 500 rounds per minute, yet it needed just one man to operate. Initially viewed as a specialised weapon, it saw limited action in colonial wars, where its devastating effect against massed formations hinted at its potential. Despite its capabilities, many military leaders were slow to recognise the machine gun's potential, often relegating it to support roles. It was not until the world was on the brink of war that nations began to understand the true value of rapid-fire supremacy. As Europe edged closer to conflict, the arms race took on new fervour. Nations hurried to equip their armies with these deadly tools, not fully grasping how they would transform the very nature of warfare. As nations armed themselves with Hiram Maxim's deadly invention, the battlefield of World War I was transformed into a landscape of horror and strategic deadlock. The machine gun, capable of mowing down hundreds in minutes, made the infamous tactic of mass infantry assaults not only obsolete, but suicidal. The relentless efficiency of machine guns led to a fundamental change in how wars were fought. No longer could armies rely on cavalry charges or infantry waves. Instead, trenches were dug, and warfare became a grueling siege across mud and blood-soaked battlefields. Trench warfare, a direct response to the deadly defensive power of machine guns, created a static war of attrition, with lines that moved only at a glacial pace and a tremendous cost of lives. April 22nd, 1915. The air is thick with lead and fear. Daylight peeks over the parapet, only to be greeted by the ceaseless chatter of machine guns. A man daren't raise his head but for a second's folly. To peek is to perish. To hide is but to delay the inevitable. The psychological toll was immense. Soldiers lived under constant threat, knowing the no man's land before them was a death trap, dominated by the unyielding fire of machine guns. This was the grim new reality of modern warfare, dictated by the cold steel of machine guns, a tool that changed the rules of engagement and left a legacy written in the blood of a generation. As the war bogged down into a static trench deadlock by 1915, the Allies were desperate for a breakthrough. The concept of an armoured vehicle that could cross no man's land and break through enemy lines began as a solution to this impasse. The tank was an invention born out of necessity and innovation. Engineers and military strategists envisioned a land ship that could withstand machine gun fire and navigate the cratered landscapes of the Western Front. These vehicles were initially codenamed water carriers or tanks to maintain secrecy. The design settled on a rhomboidal shape, which allowed these steel behemoths to climb over trenches and resist small arms fire. Protected by armour and armed with guns, tanks were intended to shatter the static trench warfare and restore mobility to the Western Front. As these mechanical giants prepared for their battlefield debut, hopes were high that they would break the deadly stalemate. Little did the soldiers know, the introduction of tanks was about to change the face of warfare forever. September 15th, 1916 marked a pivotal moment in military history during the Battle of the Somme. This was the stage for the first deployment of tanks in combat, an attempt by the Allies to break the brutal stalemate of trench warfare. The British Army introduced these mechanical beasts with the hopes that they would crush barbed wire defences, cross treacherous terrain, and protect advancing infantry from relentless machine gun fire. Equipped with these capabilities, tanks ventured into the war zone, their metal bodies glinting under the sun. The impact was psychological as much as tactical. German troops watched in horror and disbelief as these armoured vehicles approached, impervious to their rifles and machine guns. The tanks, although few in number and suffering from mechanical failures, managed to create significant breaches in the German defences. Despite their slow speed and high breakdown rate, tanks showed promise. They altered the battlefield dynamics, offering a glimmer of hope to the end of the deadlock of trench warfare. The Somme would not see a decisive breakthrough from tanks alone, but the seed of armoured warfare had been planted. As the sun set on the bloodied fields of the Somme, the landscape of warfare had changed forever. Tanks, these new tools of war, had demonstrated their potential and would soon evolve into indispensable instruments of combat in future conflicts. The horror of chemical warfare was first unfolded on the Western Front in April 15th near Ypres, Belgium. Without warning, the air turned yellow-green as German forces released over 150 tons of chlorine gas, sending waves of unsuspecting Allied troops into agonizing fits of coughing and blindness. Troops at the time were woefully unprepared for chemical attacks, lacking proper protective gear or training on how to respond. The initial gas attacks caused over 5,000 fatalities and many more injuries, instilling a new kind of fear on the battlefield. As the war progressed, so did the methods of gas warfare. Both sides developed more deadly chemicals, including phosgene, which was colourless and had a more delayed effect, and mustard gas, notorious for causing severe chemical burns. Troops eventually received gas masks and were drilled on emergency procedures, reducing casualties but not the terror that chemical weapons wrought. The landscape of the front were often shrouded in poisonous mists, turning the environment itself into an enemy. The legacy of chemical warfare in World War I is profound, leaving a lasting imprint on military tactics and international law, with nations coming together to condemn and restrict the use of such horrifying weapons. Air warfare began humbly in World War I with the use of balloons and biplanes, primarily for reconnaissance. These early aircraft, such as the BE-2, served as the eyes of the armies, scouting enemy positions and directing artillery fire from above. However, the static nature of trench warfare soon demanded more aggressive uses of these flying machines. By 1915, the concept of dropping bombs from aircraft was realised, transforming planes from mere observers to formidable weapons of war. Pilots began with small, hand-thrown bombs and quickly progressed to larger ordnance. The development of dedicated bomber aircraft dramatically expanded the reach and impact of military strategies, targeting not just frontline trenches, but also distant supply lines and infrastructure. The psychological effects of air warfare were profound. The threat of an unseen and sudden aerial attack brought a new dimension of fear to soldiers and civilians alike. Strategically, air power extended the battlefield beyond the immediate front lines, forcing armies to adapt to this new form of high-mobility warfare. The impact of bombers on World War I would pave the way for their crucial role in future conflicts, altering the course of military engagements forever. As the war in the skies evolved, so did the nature of the conflict on Earth, heralding the birth of modern aerial combat and changing the face of warfare in the sky and on the ground. As the Great War came to an end, the world was left to reckon with the terrifying power of technological advancements in warfare. the machine gun redefined the pace and scale of death on the battlefield, turning open fields into deadly gauntlets. Tanks smashed through defences and tore open trenches, altering the landscape of ground combat. Chemical weapons brought a new level of horror, transforming the very air into a weapon. And finally, the skies, once untouched by war, became a new frontier as aircraft shifted from reconnaissance tools to fearsome weapons of destruction. These innovations did more than just change the course of World War I. They altered the essence of warfare itself, setting the stage for conflicts that would follow. Each of these technologies left an indelible mark on military strategy, shaping the battles and lives of future generations. But as we look back, one question remains. Did these advancements bring us closer to peace, or did they merely open the door for more devastating conflicts? Thank you for joining us on this journey through history. Let us know in the comments below, which technology do you believe had the most profound impact on warfare? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more stories from the past. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.